Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Now, Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a job for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Hi, everybody. This is Ron Swoboda of the 1969 Miracle Mets, author of Here's the Catch, a memoir of the Miracle Mets and more. And you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
How about that? Listen to that introduction with Ron Swoboda, David Cohen, Douglas Viviani here, ready to roll with a couple of special guests. David, the sportsman himself, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you, Doug? Really excited about today's show.
Yes, we are going to go through two shows with a special guest. But before we do that, we also are joined for a reason, and we'll see how that develops shortly, with the one and only 11-year-old Leo Viviani. Leo, what do you say, kid?
Hi.
A man of many words. Love to hear it. Having a good day?
Yeah.
All right, good.
You make up for it, Doug. You fill in all the blank spaces.
There we go. We have no choice. Listen, what happens is sometimes we meet people in our past and spend time with them and grow up with them. And then we go to college and go out, do our thing. And before you know it, it's 40 years later. And so we reestablish and we have some terrific memories, but also we can now look upon Roy Silver, a classmate of David Cohen and I from the Half Hollow Hills High School East, class of, should I say the date? 1980.
No.
And it's a long story as to how we reestablished. We're so happy to have Roy Silver on the show. He is an accomplished minor league, well-traveled, let's say, gentleman who played after being a standout at Eckerd College in Florida. Played for a number of minor league teams, about 672 games with a combined batting average of .291, 28 home runs, 600 hits, and 30 runs scored. So he's got some stats there. Go to Wikipedia. You can look at Roy Silver. And he now has developed his path in life to help the youth of as we could say, as the, in baseball, he's working for the Texas Rangers as a special assistant. Roy Silver, thank you very much for joining us here on Everything Old is New Again.
Everything Old is New Again. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you. First thing I wanted to mention is, David Cohen, did you know that Eckerd College has a Hall of Fame?
I did not know.
Did you know?
This is news to me. Yeah, and I imagine we're talking to a member of that Hall of Fame.
Inducted in 2014, Roy
Nice.
Silver. Who did you pay off? How did that happen?
No, come on.
Tell us a little bit about your background in college and so forth.
Let's establish the meaning of Hall of Fame is a nice way of saying, man, you're old. And that is all I felt being inducted at. Actually, when you get inducted into any kind of a Hall of Fame, it really brings you to a place of just gratefulness. It goes back to your parents taking you to your first Little League game, and, and you're in front of a bunch of people at the age, at that time I was 54, and just reliving, the days in the backyard with my dad, and then playing junior high school baseball where we played at the West Hollow and then, Half Hollow Hills, and then you go on, and it's just an amazing road. It really is very sobering and very humbling. And also at the same time, I played with a lot of really good players, even there at Eckerd College, and to be, just voted as one of the ones that supposedly was the best there, it's just an incredible, it's just an incredible honor.
And you talk about this sometimes where, in West Hollow Junior High, when you were on the team with me, which was certainly not memorable, but we were on the same team for a couple of years there.
Are you in the West Hollow Hall of Fame, Doug, or is that
I'm in the West Hollow Hall of Shame. They have a picture with me with an arrow through it on the way in. But anyway, from that point until high school, you were the standout on the team. When you went to Eckerd, you may not have been and had to work a little harder to get there. And then into the minor leagues, work even harder as the sea, so to speak, the big fish in the little pond became the little fish in the big pond. And I want to
tell his whole story, Doug. Go ahead. Don't let Roy chime in here.
No, but I want to get back to, you knew from day one, from when you were like 3 or 4 years old, throwing the ball, a tennis ball with your dad in New York City. At that point, you knew that you wanted to be and spend your life on the baseball field. That's a gift, is it not?
Yeah, it is a gift, and everybody wants the gift of athleticism. But I want everybody to hear that we all have gifts. It sometimes doesn't come in the form of athleticism, the gift of being really good in mathematics or in history. There's all kinds of gifts. So some of these young men that have tried to be baseball players have redirected their lives and become really good plumbers or construction workers. And there's a need for all of those things. And it's the key to life is looking for that. What is that gift? Sometimes we can shortchange our own kids by pigeonholing them or funneling them into what we think they want to be or need to be. And we have to always be aware of that. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. Fortunately, like we said, I had that gift, and most of the time, and that's a great point, is that it wasn't until I went to college where I became the small fish in a bigger pond. And that was really, very eye-opening. And it's time to start eating a little bit more consistently in terms of becoming the bigger fish and working a little bit harder, getting there a little bit earlier, staying a little bit longer. And I had a couple of actually athletes there at Eckerd College that were faster than me, hit the ball further than me. But I was determined to do the things I could do. And that's the beauty of baseball. My roommate was faster than I was, but my legs were shorter, so I could cut corners on the bases. And so I got to second just as fast or maybe quicker than he did. And he had a better arm than I did. But I was going to hit the cutoff man every time. I wasn't going to get yelled at for that. And he could hit the ball further than me, which are the 3 God-given traits that the scouts and colleges are looking for, is, running speed, raw power, and arm strength. And he had all 3 of those. And no matter what I did, he was better than me in those categories. So when it came to hitting and I saw where he was hitting the ball, it's like being on the golf course. The guy drives the ball 300 yards and you can't get there, but you can stay in the fairway. So I was really determined to be a more consistent contact hitter, spray the ball around the field, occasionally hit a home run. But my dad also hated the strikeout. So from a little kid, keep my dad quiet and to keep him from getting upset with me, I made sure I made contact. So that was, I wore that with me my whole career.
And it's interesting, Roy, because it sounds like your roommate, you learned a lot about what you need to do to get better as a ball player from him, right? There's always someone better at what you do out there. And if you can just strive to be the best that you can be and maybe learn something from the person who is better at it than you, then that's really all it's about.
And I hope the message is clear. Like we train in the weight room, but the ball travels off that bat further because of your bat speed. And like I said earlier, your God-given or the ancestral trait that you brought from your parents, in case people don't believe in God. I always say, that talent, raw talent, comes from either a relative or, again, it's like a good voice. Everybody wants to sing. I can't sing. I don't have a good voice. So I don't sing, especially not solo. And but it's okay. I'll listen to other people do that for me, and that's my entertainment. But so in baseball, a lot of guys get in the weight room thinking if I bench press more, I'm going to hit the ball further. And that's not true. That's just something natural. It's a gift. The weight room has a purpose. A lot of it is just to be healthier and actually maximize your potential. But I learned a lot from Mike Lopez, who was my roommate for 3 years in college, and that was just to be me.
How about that? And speaking of being us, we have to stop for here a break. As it's the usual procedure here on Everything Old is New Again. We'll be back right after this on Everything Old is New Again with David Cohen, Leo Viviani, and Roy Silver, special assistant for the Texas Rangers.
That the Cards are gonna win tonight. That the Cards are gonna win.
Well, this is Karen Allen from Raiders of the Lost Ark and Czarman, and I'm here to tell you about my wonderful store and website, KarenAllenFiberArts.com. It's KarenAllen-FiberArts.com. I carry all kinds of really unique gifts and women's clothing lines from all over the world, from small studios that are things you won't see anywhere else. And if you're looking for a gift or something for yourself, please get in touch with us. We would love to help you find that special thing.
That's KarenAllen-FiberArts.com.
Hi, this is Art Shamsky from the 1969 Mets, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
This is Jim Leyritz, former two-time World Series champion New York Yankee, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
How about that? How about that? We're back here and Everything Old is New Again. That was Jim Leyritz introducing us with Art Shamsky. We've had some heavy hitters on the show in the world of baseball, but none as informative and interesting as Roy Silver, special assistant to the Texas Rangers right now, former minor league baseball player, can sort of peel the onion and take a look inside behind the scenes of baseball. And he's somewhat known, if you will, for helping Josh Hamilton, if you remember him, an all-star and played in 2 World Series, get through some difficult times in his life with his winning academy. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it's the Winning Inning Academy, right, Roy, that in Florida, that when there was a time that Josh Hamilton had some difficulties, I think you tell us the story, but I think it's somewhere in the round way where you offered him an opportunity to work at the Winning Inning, cleaning up and so forth, to earn his way a little bit. And then, I don't know, you tell us, how were you able to bring Josh Hamilton back and fight through his, I guess we could say, his addictions or his challenges?
Well, I met Josh on the way out of baseball in the year he was drafted in '99. So I met him untatted up and at 18 years of age. So we had an initial connection. I went back and visited a few times, and I think it was 5 years after that he was suspended from baseball permanently, according to the commissioner at that time. And it was his 3rd year, and a mutual friend called and said, Roy, I think, he was basically living in grandma's house in North Carolina, had a wife and had 1 child, and was just coming off his last binge. His substance of choice was crack cocaine. But anyway, I got a phone call and basically brought him in. I think it was the fall of 2006, and I ended up having him for 4 months, and it was a battle. It was a struggle, and he was the product of a young man, a young boy at 9 that was already playing with the 12-year-olds, and he was dominant at 9 of the 12-year-olds. So you're talking about a guy that grew up to be 6'4", 230 pounds, size 18 feet. I'm a pretty good eater, and I could put away a 12-inch hoagie. Some of my coworkers think that I'm out of control with my intake, but Josh could do 2 of those in the time that I could do 1, and it was just everything he did was just mammoth. It was big, and that included hitting baseballs, throwing baseballs, and running. He had all 3 of those tools. He could run a 6'5", 6'4", 60, which is pretty much flying. He could throw a ball from the warning track to home plate in the air on a line. He was, clocked at 96, 97 miles an hour on the mound. And his batting practice to this day, you talk about, comparison. Some of the older scouts said, Mickey Mantle, Alex Rodriguez type batting practice where his balls were they were hitting places in stadiums and flying over light towers. It was just, and the sound of the bat was just different. Anyway, he was a special player, and 3 years of not playing baseball, he was at rock bottom. And, everybody, like I said, he was out of ball. He was not even allowed to come back. So I grabbed him, and we had some getting up early in the morning was a struggle, putting a rake in his hand and a paintbrush and teaching him how to maintain the field that we had to take care of. It was a struggle. Baseball was never treated. It was something he had to do because he was really good at it. Didn't really love it, but it was not a privilege to him. So I had to teach him that it was a privilege. And I mean, little things like in his upstairs where he was living, where we had him living, you have to teach him where to put, this is where your stuff goes. This 25-year-old man. And, it was very eye-opening as to how some young men and obviously girls that are really good athletes, sometimes you don't get put in a position where you, like the rest of us, in order to play baseball, we had to do our homework. We had to, do the chores in the house. My house was no different. No matter how good I thought I was, my mother said, put your clothes in the hamper, dirty clothes in the hamper, put your clean clothes away, or you don't get to go out and play. We all had punishments and we had. So I don't think Josh had a lot of that. And I don't think it was on purpose, but when he was so good so early, you start protecting. And as a parent, it's easy to become kind of an agent. I'm your agent now. I'm going to represent you. We're going to take care of you. We're not going to let you work. We're going to make sure you get enough sleep, and we'll take it's too much too soon. And it happens a lot more than you would think. And it's not just baseball. It's any sort of, again, activity where a person is above average. So, the message in all of this is with Josh was, you're not going to go out on the field and hit and throw until you get up at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. And we have all these chores to do. And then I'll meet you in the batting cage, at 11 o'clock. Then we'll break for lunch, and then we'll go outside and long toss, and we'll work on defense, and we'll run the bases and trying to get him back into shape. And my goal was not to get him back into professional baseball. My goal was to get him a job so that he could go back with his wife and his child and be a functioning man, a functioning husband, a functioning father. Everything else, it spun out of control in the sense that he got his weight back, he got his color back. I mean, you got to remember, he wasn't too far off of his last binge when I got him, so it wasn't a healthy look. But again, he did everything that I asked. It was some wrestling matches along the way, but it was good, and he responded positively, and I let him go. At one point, I had taken his car keys, his wallet, and his cell phone away. I had to literally go back to when he was 11 or 12 years old, and he had to earn those things back. As a matter of fact, he never earned those things back, but I did throw him his car keys and his driver's license one day to go see his team, the Rays, that were about 20 miles down in St. Pete. And when he got there, it was eye contact, handshakes, things that he wasn't really very good at before. And just that alone was impressive to them. And they made a mistake. They let him take batting practice. And like he could do like nobody else. Oh, he's back. And next thing you know, the commissioner was involved, and then they okayed him to come back to pro ball. And so after 4 months, I didn't think he was ready for it, but that wasn't my decision. And he went, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Right.
And he wrote a book, so he covers all that in the book.
Yep, very complimentary to Roy and his academy. Leo, you have a question about Josh Hamilton? Different take, right?
Yeah. What made Josh Hamilton such a good hitter?
Well, like I said, he had size 18 feet, and his hands were humongous. Just Leo, everything he did was amazing. Physically, everything, it just came easy to him. He could dunk a basketball backwards, forwards. It's something I really can't explain other than it was fun to watch, fun to be around. When he hit the ball, it sounded like a gun, like an explosion. It was when he hit in our indoor cages. I had a lot of pro guys coming through there, and if you heard the sound, it would, us in the business, when we hear that crack of that bat, even when we're out on the field, you know when the guy got a hold of one, and you turn because you see, wow, that sounded like he got that one. Well, his sound was special, Leo. And again, just watching him throw baseballs, you just sit there and go, wow, really amazing. Okay. Those were his gifts. For sure.
And so how about for someone that's maybe not as gifted or talented but loves the game, just simple advice, if you can, for someone like Leo, let's say, right, to learn how to hit as best that he can within his, skills?
Well, like my roommate in college was very similar, not as talented as Josh, but he was more talented than me. I didn't want to strike out, so I would work on hitting like Pete Rose and Rod Carew. Short, choking up if I had to, putting the ball in play so I could run the bases. And like I said, I had short legs, so I took advantage of my short legs. I could cut those corners a lot better than most players that were a lot taller than myself. And, being accurate with your throwing. If you don't have the best arm in the team, you could always, like Mike told you, my dad would let the kid that threw enough strikes in the bullpen would pitch in a game. And he might not put him in a really big game, but he put him in a game against a weaker team. But Leo, just putting the ball in play, even if you bunt, being accurate with your throws is really important. And running the bases, if you're not the fastest, just being smart and knowing the situation. If there's 2 outs, you know that you're running on anything. And if there's less than 2 outs, you have to read the pop-up. Just being smart and keep watching the game. I know you love watching it. Keep watching the game and learn, because those guys on TV really are the best.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you watch it enough, it becomes second nature, too, because the announcers are telling you certain things, or the infield fly happens, or, something happens you're not used to all the time. You certainly can learn from the game. I remember learning from Ralph Kiner and Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy, all those years ago, so much about baseball. I would just watch all those games and back in the day. So we'll be back to continue with Roy Silva peeling the onion on baseball in all different ways, coaching and the psychology of it and the physicality of it. And maybe we'll hear some stories. We'll be back right at this and everything old is new again.
I'm Major League pitcher for 12 and a half years. I am author of a new book called Insight Pitch, My Life as a Major League Closer. I'm happy to be on a program, Everything Old is New Again, and I guess that applies to me.
Hi, this is Rod Carew, and you're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
There we go. Skip Lockwood and Rod Carew reintroducing Everything Old is New Again. We're trying to show off for our special guest here today, Special Assistant of Player Development for the Texas Rangers, Roy Silva. Roy, does that impress you that we had Rod Carew on Everything Old is New Again, this little show from Long Island, New York? I guess it does not.
He's speechless. He's like, you had Rod Carew? Come on.
Rod Carew is like one of my favorite. Him and Pete Rose are 2 of my favorite hitters.
Absolutely.
I loved how they hit.
And
I just want to say,
yes.
Just for the listening audience, I was with Roy back in the day, high school. When you every kid, not every kid, but I liked playing baseball, right? I wasn't that good, but I enjoyed it. And in your little sphere of friends, and when you played Little League or when you played in junior high baseball, you saw the guys that were good and that were better than you, but you had, you were all sort of in the same universe. Nobody really stood out. And then I met Roy. And the first time I saw Roy play and hit and run and throw, it was like, wow, this guy is in his own class. Like, we didn't come close to the talent this kid had. And I just had hope for the best for you, Roy. And I knew that you were pursuing a baseball career. And I couldn't think of anyone in my many years of playing Little League and friends I knew that had anywhere near the talent you did. So for the listening audience, I just wanted to put that out there, just my memory of the talent you had, Roy, and I'm sure still do at this ancient age that we all are right now.
I'll add to that, Roy, before I get into it, is that I can go back to West Hollow Junior High School. Leo, that's in our world, that was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. So when I played with Roy, I certainly, was nowhere near even close to the talent or understanding of what it was for someone to be able to have a talent, a gift of knowing they wanted to do something and be able to achieve it. I just didn't have the skill for it. That's it. I did the best I could, but no one's going to remember any at-bats I had and so forth. But boy, when Roy was out there, you could tell even at that young age.
Oh, that's how you play baseball.
Right.
That's okay.
Exactly. It just clicked in like, holy smokes, this is what I'm supposed to do. And this guy's actually doing it. I'm not watching someone on TV. He's doing it right here. Anyway, Roy, a little bit of accolade there for you. Would you ever react to that? I don't know.
It's you make me sound like the Barry Bonds of that class, or those moments. But of course, you made the analogy earlier. We all have those gifts, and I appreciate the kind words. I didn't feel like I was that much better, and I think my dad kept me humble. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in not a good way. But he was harder on me than he was on anybody else. But I'm grateful for that, because it kept my feet on the ground. It kept me working hard. I didn't take it for granted. Matter of fact, going back to those feelings, and I always tell kids like Leo, some of them are, just having fun playing the game, working hard, it's a social gathering. You're there with your friends. And one guy stands out, there's a bunch of them that are kind of average. And then you may have a couple of guys that are below average. And my dad, remember we had 12 guys on our little league team. So let's just say Roy's number 1, and then Tom McNeil's number 2. And then we have, a bunch of guys that are kind of in the middle that are pretty good. And my dad would spend a lot of time with 11 and 12, the kid that maybe didn't have a dad at home, or the dad worked too many hours. He had a brand new glove and a brand new batting glove and a brand new bat. You could tell they were not weathered or used. So my dad would spend a lot of time. And one name that stands out, Michael Schechter, who was that player on one of my dad's teams. And I'll never forget, Michael caught a ball during a game in right field, and we went crazy because, we were undefeated. If he doesn't make that play, we have a chance of losing. It was the last out of an inning, and it's so vivid. And we were so excited for Michael just to make that play. And I don't know that those moments are around much anymore, just because Little League Baseball's kind of died out to travel ball and that whole world that we've, taken our kids into. But I appreciate the words, but I never felt like I knew I was pretty good, and I had that confidence going for me. But I always tell people, let your kid, if he's really good at 12, like I was, it was nice to dominate, because that's the last year I dominated. You go into middle school, and the domination isn't as great, because now we went to the big field, and you're humbled by that. The ball used to be a home run, is a flare just barely getting out of the infield. We were all still probably too small for those big fields at that age, but great memories, and I appreciate again the kind words. But those days were very important to the foundation of me moving forward, and holding on to those feelings of domination are what get you through being the smaller fish in a bigger pond later on. You go back to those feelings, and you want to kind of relive those feelings. So all those are great moments, and here we are today.
Right, serves as motivation. And Leo, does that sound familiar? I coach Leo, for whatever it's worth, and we have that exact experience in our little league now, right, Leo? We had your 2 buddies, without saying their names. They didn't really catch that well, but they had the equipment they wanted to catch, right? We had a couple of guys, a lot of guys, 3 or 4 that wouldn't even swing the bat, and then eventually we taught them to bunt or to just encourage them to swing, and they started to get involved. Remember your friend Chris, or couldn't hit, or so to speak, and all of a sudden got a hit. So tell us a little bit, does that ring a bell with you in terms of, there's disappointment on the field also, but
Yeah.
there's time to realize that baseball is not always going to be success, and you got to realize that you're a team. We're saying Roy was like, the greatest player, but he was so nice to us. He didn't carry that arrogance and that, I'm better than you stuff. He was nice to, and it really helped us. So we weren't intimidated, and we could ask him a question and have him help us if we wanted to. Does that make sense, Leo?
Yeah, but there's no one like that now.
Well, we never had it. We weren't undefeated because we didn't have a Roy Silver on our team. That was that. But we still had fun, right?
Yeah.
We won like half our games. And what was your experience like in Little League now these days?
It's pretty good. I get a few hits. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, but it's not just about the hits. We had some fun getting different plays, and players make some outs, and we cheer them on and so forth, right? So, yeah. Roy, it does exist at least up here because there is travel, but we're not. Leo and I aren't in the travel world. We're in the Little League world and doing the best we can there. So maybe we could ask you a little something while we're here on Leo's. Leo, you have a question about hitting or anything you want to ask Roy Silver about in terms, maybe go ahead.
About Josh Hamilton.
All right, you know what? We'll take up the story about Josh Hamilton because we only have a minute and a half now. Next session, after the break, I'm going to ask myself. I will say this for a coaching, and we'll get back to this in a little more detail, but, kids, let's say 10, 11, 12, that aren't that good. What did your dad do? And what would you suggest a coach do to help those children? Just, of course, spend time and build their confidence, I guess, and look for what they can do well? Or you tell me.
I mean, just being patient, and giving them the time as a youth coach. Even if you're doing travel ball, your job is to develop a young boy into a young man. We ran a company called the Winning Inning Baseball Academy, and our motto was developing quality players from the inside out. Well, I've taken that's my personal goal, is developing quality men and women. Now that we have women working in baseball, developing quality men and women from the inside out, keeping them humble, knowing that how you're feeling and how you're thinking is so much more important than what you're producing, because it is those thoughts, it is those feelings that end up producing positive things in the long run. So, taking your time and being patient. My dad would sneak a kid into let's say we had a dominant pitcher. He would sneak one of those kids that was always in right field. He'd sneak him into second base and just say, hey, if the ground ball comes to you, just knock it down and make that short throw to first. And most of the time they wouldn't get a ground ball because if it was myself or one of our other stronger pitchers pitching, a lot of balls weren't put into play. But the fact that he got to play second base was just, I remember those looks in those kids' eyes and how my dad would take great pride in that. And same thing with pitching. It didn't matter how hard you threw. My dad always had a deal. If you could throw 7 out of 10 strikes to me in this bullpen or me sitting on the bucket, I'll give you an inning of baseball in a game. But if you walk 4 people in an inning, then you have to come out of the game. So he had these little standards in place that were really cool. And I used those years later at our baseball academy because I had to deal with all the age groups.
See, that we're going to be back in a few seconds here, but it's great to quantify for all the kids to know, what you just said. Let's say those are the rules, so that when the kid if he has to be taken out after the 4 walks, you're not just, so to speak, picking on that one person. That's the rule. Everyone knows that's the rule. The next player, he's subject to the same rule as well. So it's all fair for everybody, and that I sure helps the psyche. I have to leave it at that for a moment because we're going to take a break. We'll be back right at this and Everything Old is New Again with Roy Silver.
Hi there, this is Earl Monroe. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again.
This is Jerry Cooney, former heavyweight contender. You're listening to Everything Old is New Again with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
How about that? Earl Monroe and Jerry Cooney. Those are some two individuals to introduce us here on Everything Old is New Again. Douglas Viviani with David Cohen, Leo Viviani, and Special Assistant of Player Development at present for the Texas Rangers, Roy Silver. Roy, you were in the minor leagues, got up to AAA, had a couple of shoulder injuries, what I understand, and and sort of made it difficult for you to make the majors, which I assume was one of your goals as a young man. If so, how did you deal with that disappointment of not making the majors due to injuries and so forth?
Always having the bigger picture in mind, and it's what I do a lot of now. I try to remove players' anxieties and fears, the fear of failure, the fear of having to do something else for a living. Try to remove that fear by having the bigger picture. In my case, and not to get too far into it, but my faith, growing my faith, knowing that there's life after death, there's something to look forward to. Then obviously life and death is way bigger than baseball. Although some people treat baseball as their everything, and they often end up on a bar stool. I've got a few sad stories, from my past that went down that road. And now that we've just turned, 60, in the last year and a half, I've had a couple of men that just couldn't live life without it. And it's really sad. So in my case, it was just developing the bigger picture, knowing that, baseball is what I did. It is not who I am. And during the pandemic, we didn't have a season. I got to work for a roofing company, and I really got rejuvenated in my managing skills because I worked with that roofing company, and being bilingual was really cool. I know nothing about roofing, but I drove the dump truck for a bunch of crews, and great men that obviously are in this country to work, to do all our manual labor. But what a work ethic, but they didn't always have good leadership. So I was able to guide their leaders, and not so much in how to roof, but how to be prepared to roof, how to be better motivators and inspiring to the workers. Maybe get up on that roof with them every now and then and show them that you're willing to, lead with them by example. But so the bigger picture, having my dad as an example, I always had the thought that I'm going to coach one day. And it happened for me when I was 28. I played baseball longer than most of us get to play baseball. Would have liked to have kept playing. I was one step away from the big leagues back when the Cardinals in the 80s were really good, but I wouldn't exchange anything for the world. I gave it all I had while I had it. Again, the injury cut my career shorter than I would have liked, but by no means did I sit around and feel sorry for myself. I was ready to step it in gear. At the time I was married, my wife and I had 2 little girls, and they're now grown women, but I committed to becoming a coach in pro ball. And then when our oldest daughter started elementary school at 5, I created the Winning Inning Baseball Academy, which we kept running for 16 years, and raised 2 daughters, was home. So the bigger picture, that is a disappointment. It's a great question. And it's not easy, because I wanted to keep playing. But again, you just have to, it's a maturity issue.
And you learn how to pivot, right? You have certain talents that got you there. It's not just hitting the ball. There were other things inside your brain, obviously, that were going on that you could then lend to other people and in other capacities, just to be open to other things, I guess, is what we're saying also was really important. And maybe some people don't realize that just because you're hitting the ball or catching and whatever, doing all that great, doesn't mean that you can't do other things, of course. But you've got to be open to learning other things and tapping into that. David Cohen, do you have anything? I don't want to keep monopolizing.
Thanks for recognizing I've been sitting here for the last hour and a half. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, my question, I have a couple of questions that have been building up over time. So the winning inning you had for 16 years going, Roy?
Yes.
And so and that's that's how you sort of mentored Josh Hamilton through that organization. What in general, what was the purpose of it? What type of people were you helping at the time?
Well, I won't mention any names, but there's companies out there that are still running strong, making millions of dollars on a vision or the premise that if you come train with us, we're going to get your kid a scholarship. We're going to get him all these looks. He's going to have his day in the show. We're going to lift weights. We're going to throw. We're going to teach you to do it like a major league does it. At the end of the day, less than 1% of us play in the major leagues. That number hasn't changed. There's 750 major league spots in the whole world. There's 20-something countries that are fighting for those 750 spots. There's 375 pitchers. There's 375 hitters. There's 75 catchers. Now you're down to 300. If you don't catch, you're down to 300 spots. Which one do you play, infield or outfield? Now you're down to 150 unless you're a utility guy. So you have to do the numbers. And the numbers, again, so the winning inning, developing quality people, quality men, quality women from the inside out. Like, I want you to be a great person if you play in the big leagues, but we're going to prepare 99% of you for the rest of your life. That is not a popular selling point. So when you talk about these companies that are making huge amounts of dollars, that's what they're selling you on, and it's a lie. So we did not lie, and we still ended up really with some really cool guys coming through there, and I had a really nice loyal following. We didn't get rich, but we raised 2 daughters. We started when Samantha started kindergarten, and we went all the way until Olivia graduated from high school. They were 3 years apart, so it's 16 years. Boom. And I was good. I a lot of experience with parents, a lot of experience with kids of every age. I did girls softball for 6 years.
Wow.
And I had both of my daughters on Dunedin's varsity softball team for 1 year. If you don't believe in Jesus, the fact that I didn't kill either one of them that year is proof that he exists. So I always I have to say that in honor of my daughters and the memories.
Bring us home.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if we were going to segue into the next phase, Roy, after that, and how you got involved with the Texas Rangers, or maybe what you did in the interim to where you are today.
What I did there set the table for what I do now. Minus, I don't have to paint fences. I don't have to cut grass and maintain it. And we have a sprinkler head that's blown up in right field. So we had all those things that come with owning a business. My partner, Randy Holland, my business partner, and my wife was the office manager. My groundskeeper, Denny Roethlisberger. We made it work, and it was the cause was what I'm sharing with you. And I had to have people that believed in the cause because we were all underpaid. But it was I would never trade it for the world. And I was home with my daughters. It allowed me, all the people that supported us over the years, it allowed me to be at home. And again, I coached softball while I was owning a business. And had I been in pro ball those years, I wouldn't have had all those great memories.
So the importance of family, of course, comes out through what you're talking about here as well. And you had the opportunity to pull away and be with your family during those formative years, those 16 years, and making those memories and being there to guide your 2 daughters have been rewarding. But did you learn during those 16 years more about management as well when you're managing little children as well? Because you then, certainly before and after have managed people, and you take any skills from the family dynamic into your profession at all?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing I talk about is identity. Like I said, who are you? Who are you outside of baseball? What is your identity? So, in this case, I'm a believer of something bigger than me and God. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And I try to, the fourth thing I do is I'm a mentor or a professional coach. Those priorities get scrambled all the time. It's the ability to sit back and rearrange those. And I think we all go through that, the struggle of keeping those priorities in order. Sometimes your work pulls you in a place that it starts to get in the way of your relationships at home. And that's common. And by no means that I perfect that. But, again, moving forward, knowing how important those things are, I try to spread those management skills. And know I tell our players all the time, know your strengths, learn how to manage your weaknesses. And if you're not a home run type guy, why are you going for the home run all the time? Early in the count, go ahead and look for something you can drive. And then as the count goes in the pitcher's favor, you got to give a little bit. You got to take what they give you and learn how to maybe spread the ball around a little bit. And that's my job. I don't get into the mechanics, the techniques, as much as I get into what are you looking to do on the field and why are you so nervous and scared? And obviously, by talking about how they think is how they can get rid of some of the. We all have fear. There's not a man on this earth that doesn't have a fear or 2. and it can consume us. We've learned how to get rid of those fears by using different techniques. Some are healthy, some are unhealthy. You know, some people get rid of fear by drinking all day. There's a temporary and there's a limit to that, obviously, before it turns into a problem. But, you know, thinking confidently about situations, things you fear, confronting your fears is obviously the best way. You know, I had a fear of dying from the time I was 3 or 4. My mother thought I was nuts. Like, what is wrong with this kid? But it wasn't until, again, I grew my faith that I was able to overcome the fear of dying. And there's still a little bit of fear, but it's not a fear that consumes me. That's the thing that we have to remember. And so managing people, you have to learn how to manage yourself first. And then you spread that to other people.
And the fear that we have here is that our time is up this week with Roy Silver here. We're from the Texas Rangers and more, from West Hollow Junior High School through the Texas Rangers. We will be back next week to continue more and take a look at what it's like to be in Major League Baseball and more. Roy, thank you so much for the time this week. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Roy. Yeah, we'll see you.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.